It's Friday morning and I have a statistics class starting very soon. So this will be the last day. This will be the last question that I will do this morning. But if I can find more time to come back and do the rest of it, I will. But here is 25. Refer to the function m and n. Find n composed with m of x. Okay, so I will need to write this down. So first thing that we need to do is n composed with m of x. What that means is they want you to find n of m of x. Okay, so m is going into n. That's what's happening. So let's look at what m is. So m is the square root function. So what I will do is I will just keep that n with the parenthesis open. But inside, let me replace this m of x with this square root because that's what m of x is, right? So inside, I will put square root of x plus 6. Now we need to plug in the square root of x plus 6 into n. Now n is, the function n was x plus x, right? Take a look. It was x plus x. So instead of x plus x, let me put parenthesis plus a 6. And inside this parenthesis, I will put the square root expression in here. Square root of x plus 6. Well, looks like after all, I never really needed that parenthesis because I have a square root of x plus 6 and the plus 6 is going to be outside. So I cannot combine them to make 12 there. So that is how you find n composed with m of x. All right, let me type this in. So this will be square root of x plus 6. I'll go outside and type in plus 6 outside and check next part. And the next part, hopefully they ask you for the domain. All right, let's do the domain of this function. And this one, we have to be very careful, okay? When we are considering the domain of this function, we not only need to look at the end of it. Like, if you look at this function that we have, the answer to the previous part, the domain is all real numbers, but x has to be, not x, I'll go ahead and say that the radicand has to be greater than or equal to 0 because we cannot have a negative number under square root. That will be imaginary number. So we set up x plus 6 has to be greater than or equal to 0. And if you solve this, x has to be greater than or equal to negative 6. So if I graph this, this will be negative 6 with an open circle. Because it's greater than negative 6, I'm going to the right. If I go to the right, I will go to the positive infinity. So the interval notation will be square bracket, negative 6, positive infinity. But we must draw a square bracket in front of negative 6 because it can be negative 6. If x is negative 6, we will get a square root of negative 6 plus positive 6. And we can define what square root of 0 is. That is simply 0. So that works. So this is a domain of the final function that we wrote. But when you are doing the composition and finding the domain, you need to look at all the other pieces too. So remember the domain, the function n was, m of x was square root of x plus 6. The domain of this function is same as what we just wrote because the radicand has to be greater than or equal to 0. Domain is from negative 6 to positive infinity for the same reason we solved for the domain of the other one just now. And if you look at n of x, who is a linear function, well, the domain for this one is negative infinity to positive infinity. So there's no restriction on the linear function. So what we're going to say is the domain of the composition of function is going to be negative 6 to positive infinity. So let me go ahead and type that in. I need the one that's starting with the square bracket, and I'll type negative 6. And the right one is going to be positive infinity. And if I continue, it will show me the next problem. But since this is the last one, I'm going to go ahead and submit this. And I'm going to have to come back another time because I have to start my other class very soon. Alright, so if I do a quick retake just to see if I got that right. That was number 25, right? I want to see a pretty check mark next to number 25. and redo. So if it's wrong, I think it's going to give you the similar problem again. But if you come back in and see a check mark, that means you got it right on your first attempt. Alrighty, so I will be back to do as many as I can because I got an email from one student who wants to see all number 20 to 40. I can do that. I just need to find more time to do that for you. So I will be back later this afternoon or maybe tomorrow or sometime this weekend to show you more. But I hope these 5 that I recorded this morning are helpful so far.